Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm gonna put a welcome in the chat here. Hey, Liz. And of course, Tess and Lucy. Terrific. Okay. Who has questions or do you know everything? That's the dichotomy. Either you have a question or you know everything. Either you want a clarification on something or you know everything. Either you know how to handle all your problems or you know everything. Uh-oh. Tess is sweating. Oh, you wish you knew everything. So what don't you know? I'm going to tease you today because I am tired. I see some of you made it this morning. Fear? No, I'm not going to talk on fear today after that wonderful talk by Rinpoche. I feel embarrassed. So I will talk about it later once the glow of Rinpoche's exposition wears off a little bit. But man, he's so good. Mm. You guys think my cup is big enough? I think I could take a bath in this thing. Mm, I know. All right. Okay. So if you come up with any questions, comments, what have you, please just put them in the chat. But we are going to begin now. Okay. So we want to start by just settling in, getting the mind and body together. The mind in the body. Oh, sorry. Then we want to establish our bodhicitta motivation, thinking about all of the suffering in this world and letting it touch our hearts so that it's our natural compassion arises. And then out of that compassion, forming the wish to attain enlightenment so we can help all these beings be free from suffering once and for all, and ourselves as well. At least if we could take a moment to think, may this hour we spent together this morning benefit not only ourselves, but others as well. Ansanda Sangarab Shiri Simpamakarajabani Shuna, Susunabnatadenkasoso, Katanam Lasso, and Omin Shakin Kipojane, Tusum Sage, Quinking Mowani, and Sanchogan, Sunta Tsepa, Sawena Mesha Lasso, and all right. So I thought I would talk about joyful effort, otherwise known as diligence, has been translated as diligence. It's something Rinpoche mentioned in his talk this morning. And when he was saying that, so what Rinpoche said was when he was young and, he was, is compassion fatigue a thing in Buddhism? Yes. Would you rather talk about that? I can talk about that. Why don't we talk about that? And we'll switch gears. But just to finish my story, so Rinpoche said, and when he was little, I guess he didn't want to practice, and he didn't say why. Okay, maybe he didn't feel like practicing, or he, okay, we can talk about it later. I'll put it on I'm keeping a running list, so I'll put it on my list. Compassion, fatigue. Um, so anyway, he he didn't say why, okay? He just said that when he would complain to his older brothers, that they would say that he needed to have diligence, and he hated hearing this word diligence, and he just thought it was the worst thing, and it really felt so heavy to him. And then he just went on, and he didn't really talk about it more. And I was like, well, why didn't they say joyful effort? So that's what I will talk about today, and then next time we'll talk about compassion fatigue. So um, I don't know what the word is in Tibetan. I'm going to have to find it. But anyway, the word in Tibetan, if you translate it like literally, it means joyful effort. But when they translate it into English, they use the word diligence. Okay. And it's in the six paramitas or the six perfections, right? And when we think, just like Rinpoche said, right, when we feel, oh, I have to be diligent, or one has to be diligent, it has such a heavy connotation, right? The furrowed brow, and you're sort of plowing, through the mud, this kind of word. But when you think joyful effort, it's a whole nother thing. It still involves effort, right? But there's joy involved. So where does that joy come from? Okay. So if you take this morning, right? I don't know anybody that wants to get up before 5 a.m., or in poor Melina's case, 4 a.m., to do anything, right? But a handful of us did. We got up before 5 and we signed in because why? Because we wanted to hear Rinpoche speak. It was important to us. And so, yes, it's an effort to set your alarm and get up and force yourself to get out of bed and all that. But the reward for that is so great, right? To hear this wonderful teacher who is a marvel and magical in my view, and just so kind and so compassionate, and so well spoken. Um, the first time I saw him teach was back in 1990 in France when I was in my first 3-year retreat. And he was very young, right? We're more or less the same age. So I was 28. So he was around that age, 28. I think we're the same age, maybe. Maybe he was 29. Anyway, between 27 and 29. And he was very cute, really such a different person from what you see now. He was very shy. He wasn't sure what to say. He couldn't find the words. He looked like, is this okay? Really not secure. Oh, it was adorable. And but anyway, his English, I remember thinking when I heard him speak, like, wow, I never thought English was a beautiful language until I heard Rinpoche speak. And he just speaks so beautifully. And the way that he covered the subject of fear this morning, it was masterful. He went into so many different layers of what it means to have fear, and what it means to be fearful, and why are we fearful, and what do we do about it. And I mean, it went very, very deep. Yeah. Um, and interestingly, his name, Chikme, means fearless. Chik is fear, and May is a negation. So Chikme means fearless. So, um, um, and then we're also studying a text by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche called um, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. The course is called Walking the Spiritual Path. And this text is gorgeous, just divine. It's gorgeous. And he has many of the same qualities as Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, in that he's very specific about his words, and he can approach a topic in such a way that you see the depth of it in ways you may have never seen before. So anyway, in this text, um, one of the main themes. Oh, by the way, if you want to join that class, you're still able to join. I just asked you to join in the third session. So if you look on our website, you can see a session 1 should have been erased, session 2 should be erased too, but you can sign up for session 3 and 4, or just 3 or just 4, because any part of this text is going to be helpful, it's going to be useful. So have a look at that. So uh, we're covering a chapter called The Hard Way, okay, on Wednesday. And throughout this text, Rinpoche really, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, he really talks about like the effort involved and that it's not easy, and, that we shouldn't expect it to be, excuse me, to be easy. And I find this very, very interesting because, like, I don't know if it was last class or the class before, but recently there were several people in the class kind of complaining, kind of being like, it's hard. This is hard. It's hard. It's hard to do that. It's difficult. Yes. Yes. And, you know, and what? You know, there's so many things that are hard in our life. And we understand that and we don't think twice about it. Going to grade school was hard. Going to high school was hard. Going to college was harder. Studying is hard. Um, Raising kids is hard. Um, Doing any kind of job is hard. You know, Even if you do something that you've always dreamed of, you're like, oh, I want to be an artist, and you just imagine yourself in your New York loft, painting the day away with the perfect light coming from the north, but you don't think about like, oh, it costs a lot of money to live in New York, and I have to buy all these materials, and maybe nobody's going to want to buy my stuff, and I have to haul it around the city and try to get shows, be try to get try to be shown, in a gallery or whatever. Like, there's always stuff like that involved in anything we do that we feel is worthwhile, right? And so we say joyful effort. Okay, it's not always going to be joyful, but ultimately, it's like we understand the merit of what we're doing. We understand that the end result is going to be something that's worth our effort. Okay. It's worth the time and the effort that we're going to put into whatever it is. In our case, practicing or receiving teachings, you know, like I was like, yeah, like last night, I'm like, I got to get up so early. I don't want to. I know it's going to be recorded. I'll just watch the recording. And I'm like, Pomo, don't be such a baby, you know? Like, this is so wonderful. You have Rinpoche in your house. Like, all you got to do is sit up in bed and put on the computer. Like, how easy is that? How wonderful is that? Right? And like in Tibet, they used to like cross the Himalayas, to get to see a teacher. I mean, and there's tons of stories like that of people making astronomical effort to receive a little bit of teaching or to see a particular teacher. And even the Buddha, there's these really extreme examples of like when he was a bodhisattva and how, I don't know, this one crazy example where he dug holes in his own flesh to light candles to make an offering. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, I guess, but I find it a little bit over the top. But the point is taken, right? That we can and should make as much effort as possible to progress along this incredible path that leads to what, right? That's what we have to think about. We're talking about reaching full enlightenment. That's the end goal. So, what does that mean? And I think that might be kind of the problem a little bit for Westerners anyway, is, what is enlightenment gets a little bit cloudy for us, right? In part because it's kind of inconceivable, right? So we get a little, I don't know, like washed out somehow in our mind about it, like, oh, right? But at its core, enlightenment is to be, this is what Tu Rinpoche says, okay? To be free of suffering, to be free of suffering once and forever. No more suffering whatsoever. Like, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? And more importantly, the ability and the power to benefit countless sentient beings by attaining enlightenment. You know, what we can do in our current state is really limited. Okay. It's very limited. And it's not to say that we shouldn't try to do good. Of course we should, right? We can donate, we can, help an elderly neighbor, we can do some kind of work like therapy work or whatever that really helps others, right? We can do a lot of good in this world for sure. But whatever we can do in this world is like a grain of rice compared to Mount Everest. Okay. It's so small, it's so limited. Yeah. In part because we ourselves are still confused. Yeah. So if we're in a state of confusion, how are we going to help anybody else to get out of that state of confusion? And that's why we have to practice, right? That's why in this path, we spend so much time kind of quote unquote working on ourselves, right? And somebody who doesn't know about Buddhism just sees it from the outside. It looks kind of self-indulgent, right? There's the word navel gazing is kind of almost meant exclusively for meditation. Yeah, right. But that's not at all what we're doing. Okay. We're trying to clear away the obstacles to attaining our own, uncovering our own Buddha nature, our inner enlightenment. Yeah. So that we can free ourselves from this mess. Yeah. Jigme Rinpoche calls it spinning prison, this cyclic existence. Okay. We want to free ourselves from that, but not only for ourselves. We want to free ourselves from that so that we can help others to free themselves from that. Okay. We can't, unfortunately, it's not possible to just pick somebody up, pick somebody up from the state of confusion and fling them into the state of enlightenment. Yeah. Otherwise, we would all be enlightened because Buddha would have done it a long time ago. Okay. So unfortunately, that's not possible. However, we can help others to get to that state. This is why when you talk about a bodhisattva, we talk about bodhicitta, the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. A bodhisattva is a person who vows to continue to return to cyclic existence until all beings are free. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, you go and you attain your own enlightenment and then, well, you sort of look down at everybody else and kind of go, well, sucks to be you, and you just go and hang out in bliss all the time. That's not it. We continue to return again and again and again until all beings are free. Okay. It's so gorgeous. But that can't happen without effort. Nothing can happen without effort. I currently have almost no more clean dishes and piles of dirty dishes on my sink. Okay. I want that cleaned, but that's going to take effort. Yeah. Unfortunately, I dream of genie and I can't just go like that and have it cleaned. So even something so small takes effort. Of course, then walking on this path, which leads to ultimate freedom, is going to take effort. And we should just be realistic about that and accept that. instead of complaining about it, you know? And I don't fault, by the way, I don't fault anybody who complains about how hard this path is, because they're right. It's hard. And I complain about it myself. You know, we used to joke around when we were in retreat about just like when things got really hard or we couldn't understand. Because some of these, like when you talk about Buddhist philosophy, like, so, oh, it's just chef's kiss, intellectually rigorous, logical, multi-layered, fascinating, you know. But on this higher levels, it can be very hard to understand. So we would kind of, you know, joke about like, oh, I just wish I was a Christian again. It was so easy, you know. And I mean, uh, the way that Christianity is practiced in our country, for the most part, yes, it's pretty easy compared to Buddhism, right? I think if you want to be a true Christian and really follow the teachings of Christ, that is very difficult, right? Because Jesus talked about loving your neighbor as yourself, loving your neighbor as much as you love yourself. That's not easy. And we might say, I don't love myself, but get real. Of course, we love ourselves in the sense of wanting to be happy, wanting to always get the biggest piece of pumpkin pie, you know, in that way. Yeah. And then he goes further, Jesus, and he says, love thine enemy. What? He says, give away all your wealth to the poor. Okay. So if we're going to do those things, yeah, it's hard. But I'll just take myself as an example, because I'm not in a position to judge anybody else. Um, when I was, you know, I grew up Catholic. So yeah, I mean, the idea essentially was like you could be uh, a jerk, you know, all week, as long as you went to confession once in a while and you went to church on Sunday. Like, what is easier than that? And you could essentially think whatever you wanted and feel whatever you wanted, like hatred and jealousy and pride and all that stuff, as long as you didn't act on it. There was, now I don't remember any teachings apart from this kind of thing of like being, you should be, right? You should be XYZ. You should be kind. You should be generous. You should be loving, this kind of thing, right? But there was nothing about like, even your thoughts, you should be aware of what your thoughts are and not indulge in those and try to change your habits. Like, I never heard that ever. So in Buddhism, it's like even your thoughts matter. Even your thoughts have karmic weight. Yeah. So we have to be careful, even not just about what we say, not just about what we do, but even about what we think. And that's, honestly, it's a pain in the ass. I just would rather not, man, you know, right? And we had to practice every day, and we got to be constantly mindful. It's not just like tra la la during the week, do what you want, and on Sunday for 1 hour, you're just a perfect little angel, and then you're screaming at people in the parking lot on your way home, which is what I witness constantly. Yeah. So um, it takes effort. It takes effort, but the effort becomes something joyful when we understand the the fruits of our labor, right? So, and it's not just like, oh, you have to, you know, put your head down and just trudge along, and, you know, next life you'll feel the results of all the sacrifices that you made in this life. No, 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 no. You see the results very quickly, in fact. Once you start practicing, once you start meditating, if nothing else, even if you just do mindfulness of breathing with a bodhicitta motivation, you can get pretty far, right? Once we start to actually practice, we see pretty quickly, yeah, oh, I'm more patient, you know, which is really pleasant, to have less anger, to have less relation, you know, issues in our various relationships, because we're more aware. of what's happening in our own mind. We're more aware of what others are going through. We have increased our compassion. We have increased our patience, all these things, yeah. Everything that all the other, major religions and secular, even secular humanism admire and strive for, like love and patience and generosity and things like that. It's just, as far as I know, none of those other systems have an actual method like Buddhism does for developing those qualities, right? It's kind of like, well, you're just stuck with what you have. And I mean, I always had a problem with anger from childhood, right? And so I was like, I know this is wrong. I'm not supposed to be like this, but I don't know what to do about it, right? So I would ask. I would ask the priests and the nuns and my parents, what to do. And I never got a satisfactory answer. That the answer that I got was to pray, pray for patience, right? And so I did. I did. I was very sincere. I prayed very hard, and it didn't work. Yeah. And so I just felt like, okay, well, I'm just stuck with this problem, you know? And I guess I just have to learn how to deal with this problem. And I guess everybody around me just has to deal with my shitty temper, my bad temper. Sorry for swearing. Right. And then when I encountered Buddhism in Tibet, not in Tibet, I'd never even been to Tibet, maybe someday. In Thailand, and I asked the monk there, like so they would have these 10-day retreats at big first week of every month for Westerners. And there was an American monk and a German monk teaching. And I remember interviewing with this American monk and asking him about this problem that I had. And, and some of you have heard the story a million times. I'm sorry to bore you, but he said, just next time you feel that way, just sit down and close your eyes and examine what that feels like in your body and your mind. And I did that eventually. And then, I really paid attention to like the teachings on patience and so forth, right? So, and just meditation itself, as I was saying. And so over time, I mean, right away, I could see the potential of this practice for being effective. Yeah. Not to say that, we can change overnight, we can't, but that there was a method for actually developing patience that I'd never heard of before, right? And this is one of my favorite things about this path is the practicality of it, the realistic nature of it, the efficacy of it, the kindness of it, the compassion. Um, um, Something I wanted to say, I forgot. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. So, um, when we talk about effort, I don't know why there's this idea, maybe because meditation, maybe that's why people think it shouldn't be hard, because meditation is usually quite pleasant. Um, and it seems very, you know, very groovy, very chill, it's just like, oh, you're just sitting there with your little, incense and candles and your bells, when you're meditating and everything is so peaceful and cool. And so maybe people think like, so it shouldn't be hard, right? And I think maybe another aspect, and maybe I'll ask the class this on Wednesday. Maybe another aspect of it is kind of like because it's the mind, and somehow we feel that because it's not something physical, like it's not a physical skill, like learning to play the piano or even a mental skill like learning another language or something. Maybe we just think it should be easy, right? Like I know the idea, therefore I should be able to do it. Or we're not taking into account these really deep habits we have, these deeply ingrained habits we have, right? Of um, anger or what have you. Yeah, anger, jealousy, pride, all those fun things. We don't take into account those habits. And so it seems like, well, I heard that, anger is not really a good thing and I should be patient. Okay, well, I'll be patient. I think we might think somewhere, maybe not even consciously, that that's how it should work. And so we're just like, when things get hard, we're surprised. I don't know. I think for me, I just always expected it to be hard, but I don't know. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not lovely, also, you know, like raising a child. It's hard, but it's lovely, right? You go through so much. I really have a lot of admiration for good parents, um, who have so much patience with their children and, really, really do their best to provide a good example and to support their kid materially, which is, hugely expensive, um, and to teach their child values and all that stuff. Like, it's wonderful when it's done well. Yeah. But it's not easy. There's an parent in this world that will tell you that it's easy from the moment of pregnancy and from the moment of conception to the end of the parent's life, probably. It's difficult. A lot of parents think like, oh, the kid turns 18, they're out of the house, boom, boom, I'm done. No, you're never done. You're not done. Lucy knows that. Liz knows that. Yeah. You're not done. You're always their parent. You always care about them. You always worry about them. You always try to help them. So I think you get my point. Like there's anything that is worthwhile is going to take some effort, and that includes this path. And rather than, you know, being surprised by the fact that there's effort, we could just accept that there's effort and understand that it's completely logical and that it makes a lot of sense that there's effort involved in something so grand, in something so incredibly worthwhile. Yeah. So I think when we find ourselves, and I say when and not if, because if you're practicing all the time or you're doing your best to practice every day, there's going to be points where you don't want to, it's too hard, it's difficult, you want to give up, whatever. Okay. When those times come, and I would suggest starting with the smaller times when you just don't want to get out of bed or whatever. You don't feel like doing your practice today. It's worthwhile to remember these things, to go, oh, what is the result of what I'm doing here? Yeah. What is the result? And that's why also, yeah, Lucy says yes. Yeah. So, what is the result of what I'm doing? Yeah. Where am I going with this effort that I'm making? And that's what I started to say. That's why I always really encourage people to, um, you know, throw a big party in a sense when you notice any kind of improvement in your mind, in your life, in your relationships regarding the practice, in relation to the practice. Yeah. So, like to give you an example, you know, I'm always talking about anger because, like, that was my biggest issue. So, I have a lot of experience thinking about that, but you can apply it to anything, whatever your thing is. Now, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's um, whatever. Anyway, you get the point. Um, but let's take anger as an example. So, maybe you've been working on it for a while and trying to develop patience and reading Shantideva's chapter on patience and all that stuff, and you lose your temper in whatever situation. That's a great opportunity to look at like the totality of your past. Okay. And you can look back and go, yes, I lost my temper, but you know what, I would have lost it a lot sooner with this person had I not been practicing for the last year or 6 months or whatever. I definitely would have. And and then to like pat yourself on the back, give yourself that lift. right? Give yourself that encouragement. That's like, good job. We have to like bring these positive things right to the front of our mind, because usually what happens is the negative things are there and the positive things like disappear into the ether of our brain. Yeah. So if we don't notice the positive things, then the path again becomes something, you know, heavy and trudging, and that kind of diligence, that we don't really want. Yeah. And there's always, as long as we're practicing, there's always going to be improvement. There will be. It might be small, it might be a lot smaller than we wanted or hoped for, but it's there. So we need to bring those things to the front, so that helps us to develop this joy. That helps us to keep going, to go, oh yeah, last year I would have been mad at that person, I would have lost my temper 4 months ago, with this person. And or I would have been a lot more angry, or my anger would have lasted a lot longer, or I really would have said what I wanted to say and I didn't say it this time, right? And at the same time, looking at that, we can say, but yeah, I still got angry. I'm a human being, right? And so I know that I still have a ways to go. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep with my joyful effort. And we're going to keep progressing on this path and doing the work that is necessary in order to progress. Okay? All right. So let's do some meditation now. We will start. Maybe we just do mindfulness of breathing today. Excuse me. So we want to begin by taking the posture. Okay. So if you're sitting on your bed or on the floor, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you're sitting in a chair, you want your feet flat on the floor in front of you. All the other instructions are the same. So your hands can be palms down on your knees or palms up like that, resting in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that in your lap. Arms are relaxed. Back is straight, but not tense. Okay. So back is straight. That means the back of the neck is also going to be straight, which means your chin is going to be tucked in a little bit. Want your shoulders back a little bit. So normally even if you just do that one time, it's so nice. Right away, you can feel your chest opening. Mouth is closed, but relaxed. The tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. Ideally, your eyes are open, looking down in front of you a few feet. Just a relaxed, lowered gaze. So that's the posture. This posture is the way it is because it supports the mind in meditation. Okay? So we're just going to do mindfulness of breathing. All right. And this practice is just bringing a relaxed awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. We're going to be focusing at the end of the nostrils. Okay. So just take a moment to notice that sensation. So that's what you're going to try. So the aim is to maintain continuous, unbroken, relaxed awareness of that sensation. So what do we do with all the thoughts roiling around in our head? Yeah. We just let them come and go. The goal is that, yeah, that thought arises, dwell for a moment, it'll disappear on its own. Replaced by another thought, which will dwell for a moment and disappear on its own. Yeah. So the goal is just to let that happen. We're not trying to stop thinking because it's not really possible. But just let them come and go like clouds in the sky, not paying too much attention to them. If we want to, we can label it thinking, come back to the breath, or we can just let that happen. What is very likely to happen is that at some point we will get distracted by these thoughts. Yeah. Which is normal, not something to worry about or get down on yourself about or criticize yourself about. It's a natural part of this process. Okay. So I give you two examples. Okay. What we want to do is, all what I just described, right? Focusing on the breath. Okay. And we notice a thought arises. Oh, soon it will snow again. And we just let that thought go, and another related or unrelated thought might arise. Oh, I got to call my snow guy. Let that go. Or, oh, Christmas, when I was 7 years old, let that go. Okay. And we just stay on the breath and let these things pass by. What we want to avoid is this sitting or focusing on the breath in the way that I described. And thought arises, it's going to snow again. And then, oh, we're just off and running, right? Oh, it's going to snow again. Oh, I got to call my snow guy. Oh, I remember when he also used to do my grass. He didn't do a good job. And he wasn't reliable. I don't know why he's reliable about the snow, but da da da. And I remember, yeah, Christmas. Oh, when I was 7 and I got I don't know, some kind of doll that I didn't like. And my sister got something better. On and on and on. And we completely forget where we are, who we are, what year it is. Yeah. And we're just running after all these thoughts. This is what we're trying to avoid. However, it's kind of unavoidable. So the thing to remember is when that happens, we find we've gotten totally off track, out of time, out of space, everything like that. Soon as we notice that, oh, I got distracted, just bring the mind back to the breath. And then it'll happen again. And then we bring the mind back to the breath. And then it'll happen again. And then you bring your mind back to the breath. That's the practice. So it was a Lama who said, when we get distracted and we notice that we got distracted, it's not a case for criticizing ourselves, oh, I can't believe I got distracted, I'm just trying to concentrate, I got distracted. He said it's a victory. We should see that as a victory. That's the point of this practice, to notice when we got distracted. So we should say to ourselves something like, oh, that's awesome, I realized I got distracted. And then you bring your mind back to the breath. Okay. That's the whole practice. And that's why it's called practice. If we could do this perfectly, we wouldn't need to practice. Yeah. So, we get distracted. We notice we got distracted. Cool. I recognize, bring the mind back to the breath. Okay. So we are training ourselves also to notice distraction and awareness, to notice those two things, and to, when we are distracted, be able to bring the mind back to a state of awareness. Okay. All right. I hope you understood that. Make it so itchy. Okay, let's start. Let's start. So please take the posture as described. All right. Bring awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. Just try to maintain continuous relaxed awareness of that, letting the thoughts come and go, bringing the mind back if you get distracted. Please begin that now. And now we begin to count the breaths. Pardon me. Counting I'm so sorry, excuse me. Counting helps us to realize more quickly when we've gotten distracted because we will have noticed that we lost count. So you want to count either every in breath or every out breath, whichever you prefer, to a total of 10 complete breaths. If you get lost in the middle because you got distracted, again, no big deal. Just, oh, I recognize I got distracted. Very cool. Bring the mind back, start again at 1. If you get to 10, don't let the fact you got to 10 distract you. Just go back to 1 and start again. So please begin that now. Okay, we can end the meditation now. So now we're going to do the closing prayers. There's a link to download them in the description box below, but because I know there's always people who have come here who have not had a chance to download them, I will share my screen with you so we can read them together. And then don't leave, as I have some important announcements to make. All right, so we begin with the long life prayers for our precious teachers. And I do need some water. So these we do just in Tibetan. And, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just read along in English. No harm in that. Or you can not do them at all. There's no harm in that either. Anri wawe koe shinkansu pendan de wa malu tuene. Chene si wonten tingam sui. Shape kya kapa tu tengya shi. Now the one below. Om swasti jigme kempe kalong yamparu. Kunkap sechen su se puntawa. Nidra dan sanam ke nobucho. Seche gawe shakin tatsu so. Om swasti selagam surchin lakten junle. Nunsin taksi gyutu pemawang. Sansu nadre gyopo tatene. Lapchantan de shetan tage sho. Lama kunkam sampo soade. Chutu kusei rewa soade. Trine tashinge pa soade. Lama dandre wa me pa chingi lo. Now on the next page. So this prayer we do once in English and once in Tibetan. The remaining three we do just in English, and then we say this 100-syllable mantra. By this merit, we all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sonam tam che zipani, domne ne pe dranam panche shing, ke gana chi balon trupai, si pe sole droa shu. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and Dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Tishra Dreto Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Soa Siddhi Me Prayatsa Soa Kama Sutta Me Chitam Shriyang Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatata Gata Vajrama Me Munsa Vajri Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva. Okay, so before I let you go, I just want to make a couple of announcements. Most importantly, we are having a retreat, a little retreat, sorry, on Saturday the 22nd and Sunday the 23rd of this month. And this retreat is called The Joy of Giving. And it is actually a fundraiser that we're having for the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. So since the government cut off SNAP benefits, even if they're reinstated, there's going to be a big delay. Even if they're reinstated, the food banks always need money. So 100% of all the funds that we take in, we're not keeping anything, will go to the food banks. So if you'd like to join us for that, it would be so great. And we have 4-tier level, but also we have a pay what you can option. So if you can't afford even the discount fee, no problem whatsoever. Just click that pay as you go link, and it'll take you to a page where you can just write in the amount that you want. If you don't have time to do the retreat, just make a donation. That's also totally fine. The retreat is pretty lightweight, in my view, anyway. Saturday morning is just this on YouTube. So 10:30 to 11:30, like usual. Saturday afternoon is 2 to 4. And Sunday morning is 10:30 to 12:30, and that's it. And we're going to be covering the Buddhist teachings on generosity, and also doing some meditations to help us with that, help us to kind of, yeah, open up our heart and not be so afraid of giving, things like that. Okay. So I hope very much that you can join us for that. We also have 3 times a month, we do a very beautiful sadhana called the Buddha sadhana. The next one for that is this Thursday, the 20th at 6 p.m. So links below. I hope I changed the time. I think I did on the website. And then next weekend is the fundraiser. And then we're off for Thanksgiving week. So after the retreat is over on Sunday, we won't have meditation on Saturday, the 29th. Okay. So that whole week we will be off except for Sunday. And you should sign up for the newsletter, okay? But that's really the quickest way to know what's happening. It's the best way, and you'd be the most up to date on everything. Let's just look at my list. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. So then we'll have a winter break too, but that's, next month we'll talk about it then. We won't have in-person meditation at Lakewood in December. Normally it's the second Saturday of every month, but in December it's just too crazy, so we're not going to have it in December. So the next one will be second Saturday in January of next year. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us. Really helps us. It's not a joke, okay? So please, all you got to do is just hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you can leave a comment, it doesn't matter what it. I mean, hopefully it's positive. But if you can also leave a comment, all that stuff just drives traffic to our channel. And that's what we want, not because, oh, I'm trying to be famous, or we're trying to be famous, or we're trying to convert people, nothing like that. But just, to give people an opportunity to access the Dharma is extraordinarily precious. So your participation in that is like and subscribe and comment. You can just say, yay, or, I had a nice time, or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything long or profound, just a comment. And please, if there's something that you think, like this fundraiser that we're doing, this fundraiser retreat, it's not going to be like serious Buddhist, heavy philosophy or anything like that. So if you think you have friends or family who might be interested in that, share it with them, like we never want to, again, try to convert people or anything like that. But I'm more concerned about the food bank and getting money kind of pushed in their direction. So yeah, if you have friends or family be interested in that, that would be really cool. Also, if you are able to make a donation to Songsan Gampo, our organization, that would be fabulous. We really, really need it. I know that it might seem a little cray-cray to ask for that, but it's super, super helpful to us. We do still have a lot of bills, even for Zoom, we have to pay for that. Yeah. And there's other things we have to pay for, CPA and all kinds of things. So if you would help us with that, it's so good for you, right? You create this incredible merit. And of course, it's really good for us, so we can continue sharing the Dharma with people. It's unfortunately in this society, we can't do that without money. So it would be cool if you could leave a donation. And if you can't, that's fine. You can make an aspiration to be able to donate, or you can ask us. Maybe you can do volunteer work for us. There's always things to do. So that's it. I'm done begging. I'm done talking. I'm done thinking. I'm done being awake. I need a nap. So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming this morning or for watching this video later on if you weren't able to make it this morning. And I find you very precious and I really appreciate you. So, have a wonderful weekend and we'll